Hello, folks, and welcome. Welcome to Just Folks Conversations with Emma. Oh, I hardly know where to start today. I've got an amazing guest, and our conversation is going to be wide-ranging. We don't know where it's going to go, and that's fine because we are both relying on spirit to guide it and to express what's coming through. But I want you to know this young lady has been on a journey, and she is sharing with you the benefits, the highlights, and she's going to be connecting the dots. And as you listen to her story, you may hear something that lights up your world, something that is useful. You're going to enjoy the whole story, wherever it goes. But listen carefully to see what the lesson is. That's the word I'm looking for, the lesson that you can gain from this. And so, without any more chatter from me, I'd like to introduce you to Miss Mary Johnson. Hi, Mary.
Thank you so much for inviting me to your podcast, to just talking with you about my journey and where it's led me. Thank you.
And thank you for making the time because I know how busy you are and you do is the word plethora, a plethora of things,
A
um,
plethora.
all- and all of which is so vital and important to your life and the lives of the people that you meet. Um, let's talk about how we encountered each other. Would you like to
Well,
start?
thank you, first of all, for inviting me and giving me the opportunity to share my journey. It's been quite an experience, and I'm really amazed, grateful, thankful, and excited from where it has come from. In 2022, I went to Sedona, Arizona. I had got my Reiki Masters in 2020, and I had the opportunity to sit with the energy that I was not familiar with, but I would say, in the same token, being familiar. I'm one of those individuals who like to try the spirit by the spirit. And so, if it is for me and divinely guided by God for me, then I wanted to be able to invest in it. I went to Sedona, Arizona to be with other individuals who also have Reiki experience, Reiki masters. I mean, like very talented individuals. And it was the highlight of my life, just with connecting with the earth and being there.
Okay, so let me just jump in for a second. Everyone may or may not be familiar with what Reiki is. Could you talk a little bit about that?
Well, Reiki is universal life force energy, and it actually shows up in our hands. It shows up throughout our eyes and our entire body. So, what it is connecting with God, the love of God, the essence of God, and that energy coming straight through us. I want to put out a couple of disclaimers. I am in 2006, I had been called to ministry. So I had ministered for a period of time before in 2010 being ordained. I grew up in a church. Um, I actually, the way I grew up was just really, looking back on it, was really special. I had the privilege of, and I know you want me to talk about Reiki, but it's going to lead up to that. So I actually had the privilege of being raised by not only my mother, but my paternal and my maternal grandmothers and great grandmothers. They actually had, and if I wasn't with one, I was with the other. And I'm so grateful for that because I learned professionalism. I learned what it means to be a stay-at-home mom and take care of your family. During that time, they were raising you to be a wife. So I had the opportunity to learn that with one of my great grandmothers. I learned how to communicate without talking. Because I'm the oldest of my mother's children. My mother was 16 when she had me, and it was a very trying time for her. And so, with that being said, her grandparents stepped in, and so did my dad's parents and grandparents stepped in to help raise me. Being the first grandchild, of course, they were pretty giddy over the fact, but they did not allow. I wasn't a bad child. I rarely talked with my mother. Had to be a lot more mature. And that was because of, I'm going to say her age for right now, just not being aware of what a child really needs, especially when you're having a child at 16, especially when it wasn't welcomed for you to have a child at 16. Things were very challenging for her. Therefore, putting me in a position as if I was growing up with her. And as she continued to have children, so I have a brother and a sister. And as she continued to have children, I had been in a position to be a role model. Those were some of the things that were spoken about very early. Now, I'll be very genuine and say, yes, I was born in the 70s, but I am 29 and I'll be 29 for the next 29 years. And it was
Absolutely.
just an exciting time for me. And I like for that excitement to continue to go. But nevertheless, at my mother's house, I was responsible for taking care of my siblings, responsible for doing the right thing. In addition to the fact that I'm also the seventh Mary in my family, just from my great grandmother. So coming down the line, I've experienced tons of challenges, childhood trauma, and probably things no different than the next person. But for me, it felt like I was on an island all by myself. Being on that island by myself, it meant that not only would I have to be responsible to take care of my siblings. Now, one of my siblings is 2 years younger than me, and then the other one is 7 years younger than me. And my mother would leave us in the house by ourselves, and I would have to be responsible to make sure that they ate. I had to be responsible to make sure that they were bathed and learn some kind of way to soothe whatever pain that they would be experiencing, along with myself, with our mother not being there. And I want to be really genuine. I want to be very honest. It's not a opportunity for me to badmouth my mother, but these were my experiences. These were my journeys. And I could remember one day my mother said, "Oh, I'm gonna go to the store to get some bread." And I remember after a while, how long does it take to get the bread? And my 5-year-old brother at the time, I was 7, and my sister was 8 months old. I remember my brother crying hysterically. And I wouldn't say that I wasn't scared because I was, but it was, how do I soothe him? And now I have an 8-month-old baby. I'm 7. How do I soothe her? And I remember saying to my brother, and I don't even know how I even knew to say things or do things like this, but I said, "Hey, listen, we're going to wait for her to come back." I remember pushing one of those little old school chairs up to the window and allowing him to sit in the chair. And I said, "I'm going to sit with you, and I got this baby. And by the way, we did not eat." I can't even tell you when she came back, but the sun was down. I remember her leaving out that morning. And when she came back, the sun was down. I remember my brother being on the bed, sleep, and me holding my baby sister. This was how my life started. This is what I remember about my life getting started. But it also put me in a position for God to use me in whatever way He saw fit. being with my grandmother, who was an ordained minister as well. And she did a lot of storefront churches because back then, women ministers were not looked upon in a very proud way. However, there was a group of women who would come together, such as my grandmother. They would have tea, and my grandmother would make coffee and pound cake, and they would have prayer service. I remember at 9 years old, them praying and saying, God, use me in whatever way you see fit. Let me start off by saying I wasn't excited about everybody coming over because I wanted to spend time with my grandmother by myself. I remember hearing them pray so often. I really do. But I remember this time it was something about the way that they were saying, God, use me, that changed everything for me. It was the beginning process of me saying, God, use me in whatever way you see fit. And it was something that I ended up carrying with me throughout my journey. And that did happen. God definitely used me. So after being ordained in ministry, and I went to Caton Manor Nursing Home and I did ministry there for about 8 years. Before that, I also assisted my grandmother at Lamville Tower Ministries, where my grandmother would minister to the sick and shut-in and senior citizen homes. So I would also be there with her and working with the sick and shut-in. So I was very familiar with how to represent God in a genuine way. Nobody was paying her to do it. She was doing it because God had called her to do it. And so, nevertheless, moving forward in my life, I've always been connected. Not really, I wasn't really clear on how connected I was, but I always felt like, I wanted God to be proud of whatever it was I was doing. And so being called means that it wasn't my choice to be in ministry. It was a calling, and I want to be obedient because for God I live and for God I die, right? And so these last few years of my life, not last few years, I'm probably going to live well past 100. But nevertheless, in these last years, I want to be able to create a legacy. I want to be able to write letters to my grandchildren that if I did leave before my time, then they would know how to be able to guide their life. They would know what their ancestry was and what we have all come through. They would know that the things that they are experiencing aren't abnormal things, although these are traumatic things that happen to us, but nevertheless, it is not abnormal. Being able to create a legacy where they understand what business looks like so that when I leave, these things can carry on and no different than it being passed down to me. And so, with that being said, uh, so much hurt, so much pain from my childhood, in addition to my father was killed when I was 14 years old. And I'm using the word killed because I really would have preferred to use today the word transition, but I just kind of want to let you see where I've been. So to be able to get that information that my father was killed when I was 14 was extremely traumatic because as time had moved on, my mother and my relationship was extremely strained because I looked around and I saw other people going to work on a regular basis. I saw other children when I went to school. I saw their parents coming to the school. I saw a lot of things that wasn't happening in my household. And so, to be genuine, I was very angry when my father had gotten killed, and I blamed him for it. I said, because whatever you were into that was more than what I meant to you or my siblings meant to you, it was a challenge for me that he had made other choices, right, with his life that would have impacted our life in a negative way. Now, in 2019 and 2016, I had uh, my life had shifted, and every 3 weeks from 2016, December of 2016 to April of 2018, every 3 weeks, I would get a phone call that somebody died that I knew. uh, unlike anything that I had ever experienced in my life. My grandmother had called and had a family meeting, and she says, well, I have terminal cancer and they're not going to treat it. And I don't know how long I have to live. And then in December the 26th, I talked to my best friend and she said, Mary, I got to tell you, the cancer is back. And then this is in December of 2016, my neighbor also said to me, I have terminal cancer. I'm a certified natural health professional, and I tend to ask everybody the same question. Do you want to live? Because by me being a certified natural health professional, I've been in a position where I can offer you different supplements and herbal supplements that can help build up your immune system. But I want to be honest, if you've already made a decision, then there's nothing anybody else can do. And I don't mean like the decision as far as what the doctor said. I don't mean the decision as far as what people expectations would be with coming through a process like that. But deep in your heart, how do you feel? And each one of them told me that they wanted to live. And as I prepared different teas and offered different supplements, I purchased it and I gave it to them. I didn't ask them for anything. And it was because of unconditional love. It was an emergency. I didn't have time to go through the monotonous of this is how much this costs if you want to do it. No, here it is. And if you want to take it, now I'm going to work with you in doing that. With that being said, by time May of 2017 came, I got a call that one of my grandmothers was killed in a car accident. 3 weeks after that, I got a phone call that my children's aunt had overdosed in front of her children. 3 weeks after that, I got a phone call that one of my cousins, my first cousin, had passed away, and she had three young children at the time, along with uh, aunt passed away on the same day. So one passed away like maybe 1 o'clock in the morning, and the other one passed away at like maybe 12 o'clock in the afternoon. I was devastated. I can tell you, I want to be genuine. I want to be honest. I don't want you to think that I'm just out here like experiencing these things like a hobby. No, it was to save my life because at that point, I really could feel my energy just leaving me. I want to be honest. I said, I've been praying. I said, I got my Bible. I said, I know scripture. I have done sermon after sermon, but even now, God, I need you. I need you, dear God. And so, with that being said, I
It's okay. Take a moment. Take a moment.
thank you for that. I
You
just
know,
needed to take a little break
and you can
because
take
sometimes all of those feelings just start flooding back. And
absolutely,
I,
it's understandable.
yeah, I'm grateful for the opportunity to be able to do this. And I'll tell you why, and just to kind of speed forward just a little bit, is because hopefully it'll be the last time I have to talk about it in a way where it's bringing that all back. But I can tell you that because of what I know God can do, just because I know what God has already done. Not what he can do, what he's already done. I would say I'm a skeptic by nature, but the truth of the matter is I've seen it not only with my own eyes, I've heard it with my ears, I've felt it in my body, and I've seen how it has had worked in other people's lives. But nevertheless, in August of 20, that was in July. In August, my best friend called me and she said, Mary, I need you to come to the hospital right away. She said, because this might be, this is it. And I said, well, what is it? And she said, this may be it. And then hung up the phone. And then the next phone call after that was I had another cousin who transitioned. Now we're talking about August. And she passed away from having a bad toothache. It gave her a heart attack and she passed away. that was in August. In September, another family member had passed away. And my mother said to me, well, what's going on with you? And I said, well, what do you mean what's going on with me? She said, everybody around you is passing away. I said, you know these people just like I know these people. What do you mean everybody around me? She said, I think God got something going on with you. You need to go into prayer. In October 1st of 2017, I totaled my car. I totaled my car after finding out that my best friend, who had stage 4 pancreatic and liver cancer, at the time we were 46 years old, pancreatic and liver cancer, she had went into a coma, and the hospital had called us. We had a family meeting. I'm grateful to have been a part of that because I wanted her to know that I was going to be with her from the beginning to the end, regardless to how much I was breaking down with everything else around me. I wanted her to know that she always had my divine support. And so after that, I literally totaled my car. At the time, I couldn't even tell you how that happened. But after going through the process, I've gotten revelation about it. She ended up coming out of a coma, and the doctor said, "Well, she may not be able to talk, and when we the take her off of life support, she may transition." When I went in the next day, I had been praying. Went in the next day, she was sitting up in her bed talking with the trach out of her throat. I could not believe it. When I tell you this has just been a roller coaster, but it actually started somewhere. And so, nevertheless, after that was in October, and then she passed in November. In December, my nephew passed away. In December, one of my colleagues' children passed away. I said, I've had enough. I had started experiencing depression, and I'll be honest, the only thing that had me wanting to live is I had a 1 year old and a 2 year old granddaughter, 1 year old granddaughter and a 2 year old granddaughter. And I would play with them and play with them. And so, with playing with them, it actually was giving me life. But I can tell you, I was tired. By February, I got a phone call that somebody said I need to. Somebody called me. A friend of my grandmother's called me and said, "Your grandmother's in the hospital. You need to come and see her." Which I didn't know, by the way. Go to the hospital to see her, and now they have said basically she'll be in hospice from here. And she transitioned in April. In April, God said, "You're on a sabbatical. You have to pull back." And I was still going out and doing ministry at Caton Manor Nursing Home. And when I heard that, you need to stop going to church, I didn't really think that was God. I was like, this is the first time ever in my life I will give credit to the enemy, because, am not aware of. I'm an ordained minister. How am I on a sabbatical? How am I not going to church? But I remember going into ministry. God said, "You make sure you always listen to my voice because you walk to the beat of my drum, not their drum, not anybody else's drum, not anybody else's expectation." And so we're going through all of these different things. My healing process started after my grandmother had transitioned, and I unplugged from the world. Not only did I unplug from the world, but I think that I would only talk to when I say very immediate family, I mean very immediate family. And I went into prayer so that I could seek what God would have for me. And I met someone in a very weird way on Instagram. I wasn't a social media person, but I met somebody on Instagram and they kept asking me, sending me messages asking me if I could heal them. I could not believe it. I did not understand why they were sending me that. And not that I couldn't, but I didn't know what was making them send it to me. So I would talk more about them and talk to them. And the gentleman said to me, he says, "I believe that you do Reiki and I need healing." And then it was like one person after the other coming to me. And it made me identify with the gifts that God has given me for so many years we haven't been able to talk about. I knew that. I saw that. I seen that. I dreamt about it. Something in my spirit made me know about it because they would call it psychic, right? But I wasn't psychic. I just could hear. I can hear in both ears. I can see out of both eyes. Like I can hear differently. And other people were starting to identify with it more so than myself. And so as I had didn't know what Reiki was either. I decided that I also I do Bikram yoga. And so one of my yoga instructors happens to be a Reiki master. And I said to her, can I get a session with you? I said, I want to experience what it is. And she asked me why. I said, because I'm healing. I had been introduced to Louise Hay by one of my colleagues, Julie McFillin, and she had shared with me some videos off of YouTube. This is in 2017. I didn't even recognize YouTube as a platform of information that I could go to. Now it's the university for me, by the way. But I didn't know that. But I started listening to Louise Hay, who said that if you listen to me for at least her videos for at least 21 days, she said, I promise you, your life will change. And I needed a change. I didn't know what that change would look like. I didn't know what that change would feel like. But I said, God, I trust you to be able to guide me on this journey. And so I did exactly that. I listened to her for 21 days. And as I continued to listen to her, I would say to God, listen, I see you blessing other people through me, but God, I'm the one who stand in the need of prayer. It's not my mother. It's not my father. It's not my sisters or my brother. It is me that is standing in the need of prayer. And so she said, Mary, if you want me to do a Reiki session on you, here's my email address. Email me and we can schedule an appointment. And I'm standing there looking a little dumbfounded, as if I was comprehending what if I'm standing right here talking to you, why is it that we can't schedule this appointment now? But I said, no problem. I get to work because I would go to yoga at 6 a.m. I get to work at 7:30 and I sit down at my computer and I'm ready to get started. I'm ready to say, okay, here's the session. And I can hear the Holy Spirit say, you don't even know what it is. So I said, well, let me Google it real quick. And I Googled it and I looked up YouTube videos and nothing really was popping up outside of where I could go and get training. I said, well, where can I go that's close to me? I said, God, I don't know these people. I don't even know what it is I'm doing. I kept looking at the videos and I felt like it was all okay, but I wasn't sure. And I saw where I could take a class for $125. Her session was going to be $100. I said, well, I'm sure I can pay an extra $25 and learn how to do it for myself. I happen to be one of those people who are a self-help type of person. Nevertheless, I found the place. It was miraculous how it worked out. I could hear the Holy Spirit say, you're going to go now. And I didn't see any openings. Lady called me. She said, Mary, I have been calling out to the universe so that you could be a part of this class. I was like amazed because I just so happened to call to follow up to make sure that my date was still scheduled. I went to the session. I didn't know what was happening, but basically they were explaining what Reiki is. It was founded by a gentleman by the name of Sensei Usui, who also loves Jesus. He loves Jesus with everything in him, and so he follows that path and was able to see, what we consider. Being in storefront churches, they would do a lot of laying on of hands. And I can remember a few times saying, I ain't gonna fall this time. Well, I fell every time, just so you would know. But it is equivalent to the energy that comes through. Just like people say, is it real? It's real. It really is real. And so that energy has also, I've been blessed with it in my hands as well. And so I took the class and I asked the lady at the end of the class, I said, I'm not really sure what's happening. I said, but I want to take the next class. She said, the next class is for you to help other people. And that's who I am. I'm a part of a very long line of traditions within my family, the Blackwells, where they are big about being in the community. That is one of the things that we are known for, is being in the community and being support for other individuals. And so, not even knowing that at the time, I got this within the second week, I got um, my Reiki 2 certification. And so basically what Reiki is we have portals throughout our body. They're called chakras. We have a root chakra, sacral chakra, solar plexus, your heart chakra, your throat chakra, your third eye, and your crown chakra. These are energy points that help keep you alive. These energy points are there to be able to help for your organs to work properly, your systems to work properly. And so when you get that healing in your hands, which is Reiki, you go up and down your body to be able to heal these areas, because that was the reason why I wanted to do it initially. And
Let me
what
ask you,
really made me,
let me just jump in.
Mhm.
Does the person who is on the receiving end of Reiki, do they have to know specifically that there's something that has to be healed? Or, I mean, or is that something you can detect as the person Reiki master? And if someone comes to you with a general comment, like, I want to experience this, I want to try it. And how do you know what to do for them?
So typically a lot of customers that I currently have is not because I advertise, it's because somebody else told them about it. When somebody typically wants to get Reiki, they're ready to overcome trauma, inner childhood trauma, pain, um, overcoming habits, mental health issues, things from their past that have been overbearing for them. And so when they are going through that and they want to get past it, sometimes they're called blockages. They create different blockages. I'm not sure what's going on with me, but I want to be able to overcome this. I've experienced this particular situation. I need healing. I have really bad cramps in my legs, and I don't know why. It could be anything from I broke up with my boyfriend and I'm having a hard time. I've had people call me right after somebody has passed away. And so what Reiki is it is universal life force energy, but it's very powerful energy, but very gentle and subtle energy. It's energy that comes into you to activate who you already are. One of the things that I like so much about taking a Reiki class was they said that this is our birthright. It is something that everybody can do. It's something that we all already do. It's just like, you have children or grandchildren, and have you ever seen a child run and fall and they scrape their knee and you go over to them and you go, are you okay? Are you okay? And what's the first thing that you do? You put your hand on it and you hold it. If something's going on and your chest feels a certain kind of way and it's tight, or you might be having heart palpitations or anxiety or depression, what do? You put your hands on your heart, right? And so that's Reiki energy that you already have in you that you're healing yourself. Now, I'm not going to tell you there aren't levels to it and it being activated, but it is absolutely possible for you to be able to heal yourself first. And this is God energy. It's not, I got to go to church to get it. It's not, I got to pay tithes and offerings to get it. It's not, I got to be the best person. It's you being genuine, your authentic self, and saying, God, even now I need you. And I'm not sure what it is I need right now, but I need everything, not some things, everything to work out for my highest good. And that's what Reiki is. Reiki is an experience. Reiki is you open opening up to your own perspective. Reiki is you being validated with your thoughts, with your emotions. Because if it's not that, then Reiki will help you to see it in a loving way, in a gentle way, not an overwhelming way. It's not anything that's intrusive. It comes to you when you're ready. And if you're not ready, it'll stop until you are. And so it's more of something that you experience versus something that you can just understand, if that makes any sense. Did I answer your question?
Oh, absolutely. Yes, that was a beautiful
Good,
explanation. Thank you.
good, 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 good. And so, with healing these different portals, every time I would go to put my hand on my root chakra, um, I would think about those things from my past because that's where our foundation is. That's where the most healing needs to be taken care of. And so when you are not grounded, then sometimes you have money issues. Sometimes you have weight issues. Sometimes you have issues of not feeling the security or the support from the universe. And so you'll hear sometimes people will say, I live in hell right here on this earth. And it's not that people want to live there. It's not that way at all. They just don't know how to get out of it. And so when people are talking to other people, it's just really been word of mouth that I've been gradually opening up to share who I really am with the world. To go from being in ministry in that mind frame to being in more of spiritual things to that mind frame was a easy, it was a say easy transition, but not so easy because I was really worried more about what other people thought versus what God was having me to do.
Mhm.
And so people would say, Mary, the world needs you. And I felt like that was a huge responsibility that I was not really ready to take on. I felt like I wanted to be able to sup with God a little while longer because not only did I want to be anchored in what it is God would have for me, not something that just put me out there to say, okay, look at what I do. It was more from a place of being called to help those who were ready to help themselves, who were able to identify with the challenges that were going on in their life where they needed to be able to grow past that, where they knew that there were more to this life and wasn't quite clear on how to get there or what support they might have needed to get there. And so I can identify with those things very easily because I have been in a position where I've been feeling like I was alone. And don't misunderstand me. I do have family that loves me, but nobody understands what it felt like to be left in the house with children from such a young age to have to take care of them. Nobody understood that when my mother came home, I can't question her about where you've been and how long you've been there and how afraid we were because you weren't there. And I'm thankful to God today for the little girl who was able to do those things, who was able to sit still, who was disciplined enough, who had that upbringing to be able to do that for my siblings. I'm very grateful for that. But as I've grown older, it was like, I don't know if I want to be the big sister anymore. Like, I need somebody to be a big sister to me. I don't know if I want to be the mentor anymore. I need somebody to mentor me. So being in prayer, being in worship with God regularly, being in that position regularly with using Reiki energy allowed me to heal on so many levels. Like the onion, I was just wondering if God was throwing in extra onions at some point because it felt like so much to heal. And I would say, God, I have healed from that. Why am I back here again? He said, well, you need to understand how you healed so that you can be able to help somebody else. The things that we have gone through, I like really, I'm an introvert by nature. I'm an empath by nature. And so for me to put myself out there to share these things with the world was not what I was expecting attention from, if that makes any sense. So Reiki is been healing for individuals, even when they didn't understand exactly how. And I've received referrals from other people based on that. And today, it has developed in cultivating inner peace. Initially, I thought that I would open up a business where I was just teaching Reiki, but God said that there's so many other levels that people need to heal, and inner peace is where we're starting.
I am just overwhelmed by the depth of your story, that you are so fluidly able to share, because your life experiences, everyone's interpretation or receipt or understanding of where they've been, they don't come to the same conclusion.
Mm.
Uh, we all know people from within the same family who've grown up with all the same factors, and yet one person flourishes and the other person, is desolate. And you have been able to take your life experiences, which have been challenging on many levels, all of your life, from the inception, given the way you showed up on the planet with a
Yeah,
teenage mother who
yes,
was not ready for you, you
right.
thought, or, many of us would say, another teenager. You have been able to take all of that, and what you exude is positivity and hope, and possibility. I think what makes people hopeless is not seeing a way through, not having any access to a solution. And your journey is a spiritual one. And yet, it does not exclude people who don't have that same level of understanding. And that's the beauty in what you are presenting. So I really want to thank you for coming forward to share that. And your ability and I've been taking notes here, to connect the dots. Um, Folks spend years in therapy, you know, with psychologists and psychiatrists and medications, trying to fix what they perceive to be wrong. And yet, uh, you have taken all of these experiences as I'm going to use the word transmute. You have transmuted them into positive things that are useful to you. They're tools for you. Um, this is really, I just don't have adequate words to express my appreciation. And I'm sure, those people who are fortunate enough to listen to you in person and also to get the benefit of this podcast episode are going to revisit it and revisit it, because it's loaded. You have just shared so many gems and nuggets. Um, I'm going to stop talking.
Appreciate that. I tell you, it hasn't been the easiest journey, uh, but I'm grateful for it. We can say today, to be honest, I wasn't saying how grateful I was while going through those fires. But those fires, it's kind of like the phoenix coming out of the fire, so to speak, for myself, because this is a big step to be able to share this information. And again, it's just part of the journey. And I remember saying to my cousin, one of my cousins, I have two cousins, a male cousin, a female cousin that I'm really close to. And they always say, "Oh, Mary, you always smiling. Mary, you always laughing. Mary, you always so positive." And on the inside, I felt so broken. And I said to them one day, I said, I have something to tell you. I said, I don't know how you're going to relate to this, but I said, as a child, I was abused. I was abused in so many different ways. I said, and my cousin said, "You was too, so was I." It's like, oh, like, oh. And then I talked to another cousin and I said, hey, she said, Mary, you always smiling, you always laughing. I said, I need to tell you something. And I said, I feel like when I was younger, I was abused. And she said, so was I. And then I started talking to other people and started listening to their story. And I started realizing that my story wasn't so much different than a lot of people's story. I started realizing that the things that I have experienced and gone through was even holding space for other people at that time. For when they would say, you know what, I'm ready, dear God. I'm ready to put my face to the ground and hear your voice. I'm ready to be able to look to the sky from which I know all my help comes from and trust you. I know, God, even now, that as you give your angels charge over me to protect me and keep me from all hurt, harm, and danger. God, I trust you, not with some things, but with my entire life. And if I'm not here for a purpose, then you can take me now. And as I continue to rely on scripture, as I continue to rely on just supping with God, sitting with God, not moving, not asking, but being thankful, but being grateful. When I say being thankful and grateful, I mean I'm thankful for my hair. I'm thankful for my head. I'm thankful for my forehead. Like nobody has a forehead like mine. I'm thankful for my eyes and my ears. God said, I gave that just to you. I had to learn how to start loving myself. I did not know what that looked like because when you're under the authority of somebody else, what happens is they teach you how to love them, not how to love yourself. I
That
can't
is
blame my mother
critical,
for that. I
critical.
can't blame her for that. I can't blame her for not having the tools. At 16, I'm 54. I can't blame her for not having the tools. I'm sure she experienced some things as a child. And I'll be honest, if my grandmother was to tell you a story, she'll tell you she experienced things as a child. I'll be even honest, my great grandmother's, whose name is Mary, her mother's name was also Mary. Her mother's name was Caroline, and she was from Portugal. She was a slave that was captured by the African nature land and was brought here to Cherokee land, Buckingham County, Virginia, where she was able to, this is where our life had started. But just learning even things about her and seeing how that played a role in my life. Like I've got not only great things from my ancestors, but I've also picked up a lot of their pain. And
Mm.
dear God, here I stand. I said, I'm so grateful. I'm so thankful. I'm so grateful and so thankful that they did not give up because here I am today, born from a 16-year-old and an 18-year-old. But there God was. Anything that I needed, I did not need for anything, is what I'm really trying to say. Those things that were most important as far as culture, just as far as growing up, as far as being respectful, those are the foundation. That is the foundation that I have. And I want other people who have been in my situation to know that there is healing. Your life really can change. This has been miraculous for me. This is not something that has come easy, but it's here. And I want to be able to share it with as many people as I can because you deserve healing. You deserve to live a life full of joy. You deserve to laugh more. You deserve to smile more. You deserve to forgive yourself. You deserve to love yourself. It is your birthright. Regardless to how you got here, you here. Let's make the best of it and make some money while we're doing it and get healthy while we're doing it and have unconditional love, not just for other people, but for ourselves first. So if you want to know what Reiki is, that's what Reiki is. Reiki is unconditional love. Unconditional. We just observing. And how do I help you from here? How help people is I listen to what they say and then I just follow. I follow whatever it is God showed me. And then they go, I said, oh, has your leg been hurting? They say, how you know? Well, I can feel it. There's an energetic connection and no different than you. So I want to show you a little bit. I know you got your pen and paper in your hand, but if you take and rub your hands together like this, go ahead and rub your hands together for me. Go ahead and get them good and warmed up. And as you warming them up, say one of your favorite scriptures. It don't have to be a long one, could be just something short, or you could just say Jesus, or you could just say love, and just rub your hands together. And now open your hands really slow. And do you feel that energy in between? You feel it? And then you can kind of squeeze it like it's a ball and open it up a little more, squeeze it together, and then you can feel that energy in between your hands, right? And now, what I want you to do is take your hands and start at the top of your head, real slow, and just go down real slow. And while you're doing that, just say thank you. You can just say it to yourself as many times as you want and allow your hands now to just drape over top of your forehead and come down to your eyes. Take a deep breath. Breathe in through your nose and blow that out your mouth. And keep going all the way down and take another breath, blow it out your mouth, and just feel your hands as they glide down your body. Just keep gliding down. And can you feel that? Thank you. Thank you. And just glide on down and go to your heart and put your hands right there on your heart. And you can feel that energy coming in. We're just so thankful, even now, God, for our heart. We thank you, God, for being in our heart. We thank you, God, for observing what we no longer need from our heart. And as we are healing even ourselves in this moment, God, we ask that you remove anything that no longer serves our highest good. And we send it up to the highest of heavens, clear and bring in all that does serve our highest good so that we continue to walk this path that you have made for us with integrity, with love, with guidance, and with peace that surpasses all understanding. Go ahead and wiggle your fingers, wiggle your toes, and gently open your eyes. What was that experience like for you?
Okay. Um, it was very subtle. I felt it the most pronounced way was when I actually started at the top. In fact, still feeling. I'm afraid I don't even have words for that, but I can. It almost. I was going to say it feels like a ray of something.
Mhm.
Mm. See, and I wouldn't have expected that. Um, and my sister does energy work. You know, she uses
Yes.
a method called, and it's quote, I guess, scientific Feldenkrais, and that's how you and I actually connected. But
Yes.
it's very similar, and if not the same thing under a different name,
Mhm.
because as human beings, um, let me rephrase that. My belief is that we are spiritual beings, but we are having
Yes.
a human experience,
That's correct.
and because of that. Uh, However we use our sensory input to label and identify and live our lives, um, that spiritual piece is still very present, but sometimes we don't always stay consciously connected to it. Excuse me. You can't not be, but you don't always have to be aware of it. And
That's
I
right.
what you did for me was kind of reawaken uh, a consciousness that I had a subconscious awareness of, but I had not focused on it in this manner until just now. And I've had similar experiences, but this is very interesting. And given the setting, which is, we are separated by miles, and we're in different parts of the same city. I believe you're
Yeah.
in Baltimore. Yeah. So I am. And so and we're using electronic media, electrons and all of that stuff to communicate.
Yeah.
And yet, you're able to direct and guide me from this distance into a more intimate contact with me. Um, so and I've heard it said, and I do believe it. There's only one, so
Correct.
however you acknowledge it, whatever your connection to the earth, or where geographically, wherever you have been, and culturally, what you have learned, there's still only one. We're still emanating from that oneness. So,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah, that's one of the things that you do learn through Reiki is that there's no distance, there's no space, there's no time. And
Mhm.
so that's why it allowed me to be able to go back and not only heal a little girl, but
Mhm.
heal each one of those situations as I came back through it. So it did not just leave me broken and I got fixed here. I went back to where it started. I went back to being in that room. I went back to sitting there with my brother laying across the bed. I went back to holding that baby. I went back there and I sent them energy. I sent myself energy. Once I learned how to do it, it was like, what can I do? Can I get a promotion at my job? Well, guess what? I did. Can I build a better relationship with my children? Guess what? I did. Can I build a better relationship with those individuals around me? Can I connect with people who are more like me? And it did. And so I wondered, what couldn't it do? But God said, what is it that I cannot do? I remember falling in love with God when I heard him say to Abraham, is there anything too hard for God? And I'll tell you, I put it all through the tests. And I'm sure that there are more tests that I could try. And I'm excited to do that. I'm excited to do that with other people who are also excited to do that. Because I believe there are more people out there that's like us. And so I would want to be able for us to connect. This is not about religion at all. You can still have your religious beliefs. But this is all about inner peace. This is all about cultivating inner peace. I do have sessions at Brown Memorial Presbyterian Church on Park Avenue. It's in Bolton Hill, which is also in Baltimore, Maryland. And every Wednesday we meet there online as well as in person to talk about the 12 dimensions of wellness and how to set intentions and how to create affirmations. And somebody would say, well, that stuff doesn't work. Well, that would be your affirmation. But I'll tell you, as soon as you hear it, then I know automatically that it does work because your conscious is trying to understand and help you to change your perspective on how it is you're going to get to be your best self, how it is you're going to be able to get to your authentic self. And so I've been practicing it, and amazingly enough, I've been blessed with a structure to be able to share this information. Individuals come and they bring their friends for healing. And the best part about it is they don't charge me a fee, and so that's God, right? But but I think it's amazing because we're able to give donations every week. I started off being a certified natural health professional. I started off learning about herbs when I was 23. I got to tell you that throughout my life, I had been diagnosed and was told that I wouldn't be able to have children. That was probably about when I was 18 years old. I was told that I wouldn't be able to have children. And of course, that would make me really sad. Of course, I went to God in prayer. of course, I relied on scripture. And then one day, this lady said, "You have a stop on your eye. You know what you can do to get rid of that?" And I said, "What?" She said, "You can use herbs, and you can use this herb called eye bright. Clean your eye with golden seal, and then after that, rinse your eye with eye bright." So I did it. And then I kept going back to the store, and then I started buying book after book after book. And I'll tell you, that was in 1993, February of 1993. It's amazing how I can remember these dates. But the reason why I can remember them is because August 1st of 1993, I got pregnant, which they said I would never get pregnant. So I got pregnant with my first, and I was like, oh, these, and then, it's the same thing with the herbs. I was like, oh, this worked too, but I totally believe in praying over everything before I take it inside my own body. But nevertheless, I ended up not having one baby. I had two babies, and then I had the experience. That was enough for me. Um, but nevertheless, I started reading Back to Eden, and I started meeting people. You attract who you are.
And Back to Eden is a book. Say a
It's a
little bit
book,
about
yeah.
that.
Yeah, thank you for saying that. It is a book, Back to Eden. And I probably had like three of them because I have overused the two so many times that I ended up having to get a third one. But yes, it helped me out a lot. And then, like I said, I started meeting other people and seeking out herb shops. And those things have been really helpful for clients that I would also get again through word of mouth. But nevertheless, I ended up making herbal products, and I make a herbal healing salve that's made with about 15 different herbs, shea butter, organic coconut oil, jojoba oil, different types of oils that would be most healthiest for your skin. And I started making healing herbs, healing salve out of herbs, as well as healing salve herbal oil to help your hair to grow. Because my hair had challenges. I'll tell you that's a whole nother story. But my hair had challenges, and I was called to get sister locks, which is also something that you're a part of a community. So I was like, okay, God, I get it. I'm a part of a community. So I've been able to sell those products, to be able to get donations, to be able to pay for the space, as well as to be able to individually help other people out without looking for anything in return. So things are getting better. Life is good and it's getting better. How about that?
Yes, and your consciousness is directing it, so it impacts the quality of the life that you're living. I'm just going to do a little aside. Sister locks, for everybody may not know, is natural hair. It's
Yeah,
not an extension. All
no.
those beautiful locks that you are, you know, flowing so beautifully is the hair as it grows out of your head. But
Yes.
it's there's a technique though for maintaining it and managing it, and it's labor intensive, but it is
Yes,
so
ma'am.
healthy. It is healthy. There's no chemicals involved, and um, yeah, and there are people who are specialists in that field, and they have trained and they do a beautiful job. Your hair is gorgeous.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Yes, I actually went through the training process to learn more about sister locks as well. And so I do have a lot of umbrella. I have a lot of things under my umbrella, but I think that I am excited about what life is about at this point. I'm excited to see what else is there. I'm excited to see what it is God will show us. And not just for me, but it's for everybody. I'm not the type of person that's going to, withhold good information. God said, I will withhold no good thing from you. And I am a representative of God. I have the characteristics of God, as we all do. But those are the ones that I want to be able to assist people. My background, I started doing hair. I got my cosmetologist license when I was 19 years old, because I wasn't really clear on what I was going to go to college for. After getting a little carpal tunnel in my hands, I said, I better figure out another profession. And I ended up getting my associate's degree in human services. And then when it was time for me to go and get my bachelor's degree, God had guided me to a seminary school. And I was like, are you sure? I can't go. This is what. So I ended up getting my bachelor's degree in pastoral counseling from the Apostle Montgomery, which is the apostle for many different churches under which there are a lot of, he has a lot of bishops underneath of him. And I'm talking about, um, he's passed already. So, Eddie Montgomery. I was trying to think of his first name. He has already transitioned, but his spirit definitely lives on forever. He has taught so many people. After getting the same time that I was graduating from my bachelor's degree, I'd also graduated, this is in 2010, also graduated with my certified natural health professional by way of nutritional health, by way of body works and healing, by way of tongue, ear, nose and eyes, so iridology, kesonology. There's so many different ways to be able to help a person and what they're experiencing as far as overcoming it. And I'll tell everybody this straight off the back. You want to see your life change, start eating to live and not living to eat. That would be your first step. Choose foods that are good that your body can actually use. And so those are some of the things that will help grow your spirituality, also help to guide your healing, in
Okay.
addition to, you have something to say?
Yeah, I just also, this eating to live is really
Mhm.
critical because we look at the sources of food that we have in our country, um, they're highly manipulated. And
Yes,
so I've had the experience personally of being out of the country for 2 months, and eating the food there. And it was transformational just in terms of eating to live. And we found that we shopped almost every other day to buy food because it's not full of preservatives. It won't sit on the shelf or in your refrigerator for a week or week and a half or a month. You have to eat it right after you purchase it, and it's coming from a local source. You don't need to eat as much of it because your body is responding to the nutrients that are within the food itself. So you're not consuming empty calories in pursuit of enough actual nutrition. Um, my husband actually experienced a 20-pound weight loss. We weren't dieting, and that was good for him. But so I bring that up because I expect the next part of your journey to include how to create our own food sources. Um,
yes,
so I can see that coming from you as part of the totality of your healing journey that you share
yes,
with others. So we have to set up another session. We got to do some work, as you continue your travels and your journey. Um,
yeah.
so
I really appreciate the opportunity to share the beginning part of where I've started. I appreciate the opportunity to um, let other people know that healing is available. Not only is it available, but you can also get coaching to help guide you through the process. I didn't get here by myself. I want to be honest about that. I've taken class after class, and I have homage to so many people before me who did the work so that I could also do the work. And now the goal is for me to pass that work down. And so, anytime you would invite me to come on, I would gratefully and humbly respond appropriately by showing up. With my best self, and to be able to also encourage any listener that healing is available. It is possible. There's nothing, and when I say nothing, nothing too hard for God. The goal is to be able to set your intentions every day, to be able to just sit with God for at least 10 minutes, to be able to be honest and tell God what it is you really want. Like make a list, like how you said about your food. Like you would have to go buy that every other day, so to speak. It's the same way as far as our relationship and communication with God. Like there's nothing like some people have a habit of saying, oh, I don't want to ask for too much or that's too much. Nothing is too much. We serve a God that holds the whole world in his hand. And so if he's holding the whole world in his hand and we're a part of that, then only good things will come from it. So be encouraged and know that healing is not only available, but you're able to do it for yourself and you can be in a position to teach other people how to do it. And so that's my goal is to teach other people how to do it, not only for themselves, but if they want to do it for somebody else, then they can.
Well, that is your gift that is so seriously and vitally needed right now. Because, our our society is in an uproar. And for
It is.
a number of reasons. And clearly, people can benefit from healing. We all need it to varying degrees, whether we recognize it or not. But I know all of us can recognize somebody else's pain. Whether or not it matters to to us is another question, but we're all aware of it. Um, and what I would like to do is in the description include links to many of the references that you have made, as well as information so people can contact you directly and continue this conversation, you know, on a personal basis with you. Uh, I'm going to be calling you for sure. And I know my sister has had conversations with you, and she also asked me to mention that one of the salves that you created and provided for her has been working amazingly well. Um,
So happy.
she's, she can, it's physically evident, that it works, So um, your gift just keeps on giving. And I want to thank you for that. I want to thank you for your time, your consciousness, your goodwill, your intentionality, and your integrity. Thank you for all of that.
Thank you.
And
Appreciate you.
we have to get our calendars so we can do this again.
Open. I'm definitely open for it.
Okay. Well, I'll be seeing you soon. Thanks again.
Thank
Bye bye.
you. Bye.